Good evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our fortnightly Q&A. Tonight, we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Shane Maurer from Get It Done Working Dogs.
We'd also like to thank Keggers Livestock Services for their support over the last 12 months as well. It's been awesome to have you guys on board, and thank you. And hope we can get going again next year. How are you going there, Shane?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
Good. That's very good, mate. How's your day? What did you get up to?
I've been pretty busy, been drenching and shearing and all sorts of stuff today.
Mate, for our people out there that might not know you, where's home, Shane?
I work on a family property between Millvale and Stock and Bingle, place called Yarran. It's about 40, 45 k's from Young. So, yeah, that's where I am.
How long you been out there?
13 years, I think, mate.
13 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful, mate. Where were you from originally?
Up at Gloucester, up north, inland from Taree, about 80 k's inland from Taree. Yeah.
Bit
So
different country.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I grew up there and probably stayed around there for 30 odd years and then moved to Yass. Got a job at Cavan Station. Moved down there and, yeah, ended up here. So
drove through Gloucester on my way to Walker the other day. It's a beautiful country.
Oh, you went up the mountain, did you?
Well, I did.
I wouldn't have gone that way.
I left home at 1:45 in the morning, so I thought I'll go on the freeway. So just a little bit safer than heading up the Putty Road. And what a drive. Beautiful drive. Up that Thunderbolts.
She's very
and
pretty good scenery once you start going up the mountain.
Oh, it is. It is. Even seen a wild dog in the middle of the road. Wouldn't come to me. I was trying to use my clicker. Not interested. 100k. Nah.
Yeah.
But yeah, beautiful part of
it. You would have went past a little place called Bread Eye. It was just a Bread Eye reserve you might have seen on the right hand side. It would have been, I don't know, 20 minutes from the bottom of the mountain.
Yep.
That's where I spent a fair bit of time up in there.
So you said you didn't leave till you were 30?
Yeah, about 30. I left Gloucester. Yeah.
Why the change of scenery?
Just work related, basically, Laura. I was doing a bit of contract mustering at home, but it was just too hard to get paid. And, the people that couldn't pay you, they paid you every day that you were there. And the people that could pay you, they, could wait 8 weeks before you got it. So, yeah, decided to move south and been down here ever since. So, yeah.
Beautiful, mate. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the property you're on there? You mentioned the Yarran.
Yeah, Yarran. It's all flat country. No hills here. It's a sheep, cattle and cropping property. Run some big numbers of sheep and cattle. And also crop a fair bit. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mixture here. But I don't do any of the cropping side of it. I need to do the stock.
How many of you is there, Shane?
I think there's about 7 of us all up. So there's 2 on the stock side and the rest are on the crop side.
Yeah. So 2 of you on the stock side and having some handy numbers there. I'm assuming you have to have some handy dogs about you as well.
Oh yeah. This time of the year you do. It's hard. You do most of the stuff by yourself, and summertime you need a team of dogs because the last week we've had here, the humidity, it just cooks them. Some dogs only last half an hour, 40 minutes when they're working a force into the handler all day. You've got to keep swapping them around and changing them around, otherwise you'll cook them. Come winter time, you probably get away with the job with 4 or 5 dogs. It's just really solid during summer, and people say, well, why do you do it when it's hot? Well, you just got to do the jobs when they're in their blocks to do. We autumn lamb, we spring lamb, so everything's done twice. So your autumn lamb's got to be weaned in November. We're just shearing our spring ewes at the moment. We're just shearing them now. I've just finished weaning the lambs. You've got to put fly product on. You just got to do it when you've got to do it. You can't wait for a full day because you might wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And don't really have the luxury of waiting for shearers these days anyway, Laura. When you have them, they're there.
I'm pretty lucky with my team of shearers. I can manipulate them to come pretty much when I want. So I'm very lucky that way. I've got a good friendship with our contractor. And I can ring up and, I could have a team here, 3 or 4 days if I really need it. So I'm pretty fortunate that way. There's a lot of contractors out there and just say you're at the end of the line, you could be 4 weeks away, So, I'm pretty lucky that way.
Did you always want to be a stockman?
Funny enough. Yeah. I've always been drawn to stock. Dogs, horses, loved horses, but I give them away when I don't think I've been on a horse since I was about 32. I rode them for 16 years from, 16 to about 32. Used to break them in and, everything. But when I moved down here, I never got back on one.
What is it about horses, mate, that you like?
Just everything. No, the freedom of riding one. When it's just you and the horse, especially young horses. Educating the young horses is pretty rewarding. So it's a pretty good feeling when you get from point A to point B and they're doing everything you want them to do. So, I just give them away. I just pretty much walked away from them and haven't been on one since.
What came into your life first, the dogs or horses?
Probably the horses. Yeah. And then the dogs come.
I was going to say that Gloucester area is pretty well known for its horses.
Yeah, it's all cattle country up there. There's no sheep really until you get up to Noundop. There might be 1 or 2 places that run a handful of sheep, but there's no numbers of sheep around the Gloucester area. So everything you've done on horseback, as you would have seen the other day, Dan. It's not real flat up there. As you went up the mountain, if you look down to your left, you'd be looking down over Giro Station, and that's the Barnard River. Like, we used to muster right up the top end of that Barnard River and walk cattle out of up there. Could be up there for a week, camped up there, mustering cattle up and then walking them out down that river. It was all great fun, and I guess that's where you get your stock sense from those days. Coming down here and working sheep was a little bit different to get used to with sheep, but it was pretty much the same principle. You needed different dogs, I guess. When I come down here, I had cattle dogs. I had all collies actually. And look, some of them converted over, and probably my best cattle dog, he ended up being a dog that backed. He was pretty clumsy at it, but he did it. He was a real big lump of a collie dog. But yeah, I had to change when I went to cabin. Once again, running huge numbers, and I had to change the type of dogs I had to suit the job, and I guess that's why I've ended up with the dogs I've got now. So,
Do you remember your first dog?
Yeah, little border collie bitch called Curly. Yep.
What was Curly like?
She come off a dairy farm. She was a little cracker, actually. She died of cancer in the end, but she was she was just a natural dog. Like I think she'd been with before, really, Dan. Like those dogs that just go to work for you.
Yeah.
Just do everything easy for you. And she could work cattle really well for a little dog. And yeah, she was my first dog. Dad brought her home. He was a milk tanker driver, and he brought her home on the tanker one day. Give it to me. So yeah, I'd like to go back and have some of those dogs that I had years ago and know what I actually know now. You do things differently with those dogs, and they'd probably even be better than what they were back then.
What would you do differently?
Just the way the things that you pick up over the years handling dogs and the different things you do with different dogs, to get what you want out of them. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what those dogs would be like today if they were handled the way we'd handle them today compared to back then. You used to just run them in a pack back then. Now I run all my young dogs by themselves. They all learn by themselves, and yeah, it's just an interesting way you do things now compared to what you used to do back then.
When you say you run them, do you mean like train them and work them, or do you mean just general day to day?
Yeah, you work them. You work them in a team, Laura. Back then, you'd used to have a couple of old dogs, and you'd put a young dog out with them, and they'd learn the job basically on the run. And doing that with cattle, it's a bit more forgiving than doing it with sheep. They can get in the wrong spot and not really cause you much drama. But if they're on 2,000 sheep and they get in the wrong spot, it can be chaotic. Especially if it's at a crucial point of doing something. It can make the job a lot harder. So back then, used to do everything sort of in a team of 2, 3, 4. So, and now you usually only work one dog at a time, or maybe 2, depending on the job you're doing. On sheep, because cattle are a bit different. You might use a few dogs on cattle, but only because the dogs aren't really cattle dogs, and they probably need that extra dog to get the job done.
When you say that, you said not really cattle dogs. Like, you want to just
they're dry cattle. They work dry cattle. They're not what I'd call a cow and calf dog. Like I think a cow and calf dog's a special kind of dog. He's a smart dog that's pretty tough, and if something needs to be hit, he'll hit it. Whereas sheep dogs, they'll hold their ground to a point, but they don't have the hit. They don't have the grunt when you actually need the grunt. And once the cow beats that dog, well, especially the cows here, because when I come here, they were never really educated. So they used to tag team your dog. They'd come out one at a time until they wore your dogs down. And once they got your dogs worn down, then 10 of them would come out, and they'd beat your dogs because they had your dogs worn out, basically. So my dogs will handle dry cattle. I break all our weaners in with my dogs and don't have any dramas. They do the job pretty respectfully. But yeah, I don't rate them as cow and calf dogs at all, because I think they're a special kind of dog. They're a lot tougher dog.
Do you think that sometimes people throw too many dogs out on the stock?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Yeah, like a cow and calf dog, you want him to hold his ground, but you don't want him up their ass annoying them and stirring them up, and you want him out there and have respect of his stock, but you don't want him annoying them. And if a cow turns around, you don't want him racing in, grabbing hold of that cow. You want him to hold his ground, and hopefully that cow will go, well, I don't want to fight you. I'll turn around and walk off, and then he'll move forward again. He's a smart cow. He's a smart cow dog. You'll get the suicidal ones that'll that'll just want to. They'll just want to aggravate until they get the fight. And 9 times out of 10, them dogs don't make 3-year-old because they get jumped on.
Yeah.
You know, a cow will eventually get them because they just keep aggravating until it happens. But a real smart cow dog, he'll hold his distance. Cow turns around, he'll stop, wait. You know, if she keeps coming, he'll turn her around, but he doesn't need to engage if she turns around and walks back to the mob.
Yeah.
That's what I class a good cow and calf dog.
No, absolutely. And your team changed 13 years ago when you come south? Oh, sorry, no, a bit longer than that now.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, about that. Did you try to hold on to your existing dogs or even keep that what you were working with just out of kind of like sentimental value, or was it
Yeah,
easy?
how long did it really take to make that change?
It was pretty quick actually. Once I decided to do it, I decided that I had to look for dogs that would do the job. I tried to stay with the collies because I do love collies, but I couldn't find a collie dog. I had a collie dog called Powder that I actually bred. He was by the old dog of Brad Pellows. I can't remember his name now, but he had a really good old collie dog, and Powder was by him, and he was really good. He was tough. He'd back, good in the paddock, and I lost him one night on a bull. A bull hammered him up a fence post on me and busted him, basically. And after that, I couldn't find any collies that could do what I wanted. I found they were really nice outside, or they were crocodiles in the yard, or vice versa. They were handy in the yard, but they couldn't hold sheep together outside. And I couldn't find that happy medium.
Yeah.
I did get a couple out of South Australia that were close. They had huge work ethics, but they backed and everything, but they didn't. Well, there's backing and backing. So
I know what you mean.
There's dogs that can back and start a mob, can start a flow, and there's dogs that just back for the sake of backing, going up and coming back. This collie dog was a great backing dog, but he had no idea what to do when he got there. Like he'd drop in and come back, and yes, he may get the flow if the sheep reacted the right way, but if there were sheep turned the wrong way, he couldn't grab one of them on the nose and spin it around and create that flow and drop in and then come back. He'd just create a jam at the front because the sheep were turned around at the front, and he'd actually jam more sheep into them. So I ended up selling, and I just stuck. I couldn't give collies away. No one wanted them. It's all kelpies here. No one would take a collie, and they were pretty handy too, some of them, but I couldn't give them away. So I decided I'd just go all kelpies, and that's what I am now. I just purely kelpies.
So when you realised that you had to make that change, how did you decide what lines to go down, or did you try a few, or did you do some homework and go, I'm going to go here, or how did that come about?
I tried a few people. Like there's a few different people around at the time. Like the boys at Cavan all had good dogs, and you could see what they were and what bloodlines they were, and then I started to trial, and I guess I sort of gravitated to the Buster line. I had a good Buster dog that I was given, and they were really good dogs. You sort of knew what you had at sort of 18 months old, but you never really had them till they were sort of 2.5, 3-year-old because they had so much work in them.
Yeah.
and I found the Buster bitches to be really good brood bitches. They bred on well. I don't have a lot of Buster, probably as much Buster as I do Basil in my lines, to be honest. And I never ever seen Basil work, but I have probably a lot more Basil in my lines than I do Buster in what I've got now. Years ago, well, when I started out, I probably had more Buster, but yeah, it's just dogs. It's just dogs that had heaps of work in them. You know, they could shift sheep. They weren't weight of wild dogs. They got in and got the job done when you asked them to do it. So there's another old dog that Michael Johnson had, a dog called Rex. He's an old red dog. I actually liked him better than Buster. I thought he was a really tough old dog. Like he got outshone. He got outshone by Buster because Buster was the class act at the time. But the old red dog, he was a cracking dog. He had everything you want. He had a huge top knot, shift sheep. But yeah, it's a shame they get old.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your current team?
Oh, yeah, Stuart's probably the main dog. He's getting old, but he's on the way out. So I don't know, he's probably got, I might get another 12 months out of him here. I've noticed him trialling lately. He's just a little bit off the pace. He's by old Davey, and he's out of Barbie, Marista Barbie. He's probably the best dog I've bred. Keeper's not far. Oh, probably shouldn't have said that. Keeper's probably yeah. Keeper and Stuart are probably the best two I've bred. So
I'm not editing that out either.
that's a son of Davey and a grandson of Davey. So yeah, Keeper's probably in front of, might be just in front. As he's 4-year-old now, he might be just in front of what Stuart was as a 4-year-old dog. It's hard to compare them because of their age difference now, and trying to remember back what that dog was at 4-year-old and compare the dog that's by him at 4-year-old. They're sort of different styles of dogs, but they're both very good dogs. Very good dogs.
Do you find it at times you compare your young dogs to your older dogs and forget how much time and effort's actually gone into those old dogs to get them there?
I say to people to pick their dogs in their team. Like, if they want to make their team better, they need to say, all right, that's my worst dog, or that's my best dog. And do I want to bring dogs in better than my best dog or better than my second best dog? Draw a line in the sand, and when that young dog comes through, if he's better than your worst dog, then your worst dog gets sold on, and that young dog pushes him out.
Yeah.
I see a lot of my older dogs in my pups because pretty much breeding from my own lines. They're all very similar. As pups, there's not much difference in them. And I've had many a discussion with a few mates that, you know, we'll pick 2 or 3 pups, and I'll always pick the odd pup out. They'll all gravitate to 1 or 2 pups, and I'll pick the other pup, and pretty much I like that pup, and he turns out to be the better pup. I don't know why, but I just know my lines, and I know what I like in the pups. When I see it, you just see something, and you think that's gonna grow into what you want.
Yeah.
And it might only be a minor thing. might only be a little thing, but it's those little things that make a difference under pressure. So,
Is there anything you'd like to put into your line?
mate, I've mucked around a little bit this year. I've done a little bit of experimenting. I've gone outside. I've gone to a Capri dog. I'd seen a video of Old Target, and he was in a trial, I think somewhere up at Armidale, I think it was. They were trialing 25 sheep. And I just love what I've seen. Like, he's just a real tough work dog, you know.
Yeah.
And the tougher it got, the more dog come out of him in this trial. And I thought, you know, how do I get my hands on that? That dog's dead, you know, like he's long gone. Anyway, just so happens, a mate in Victoria's got a dog that goes back to target. He's an AI dog. So I put him over one of my bitches, and I got some pups, and I'm pretty happy with what I've got. There wasn't a bad pup in the litter, even though I got told the dog should have got cold as a pup. And he's probably my third best dog at the moment. Like, he's my go-to dog when it gets tough. That's how good he is. He can just shift sheep. So I did that joining, and I'm going to do another joining using that dog. I'll probably put him over music, because I think over music they could be tougher again, because I think we've lost the toughness in our dogs. I think we've gone too pretty, too classy, too much distance.
Yep.
And lost that arrogance, or that bit of mongrel.
So you don't just mean like toughness as in physical toughness, you mean mental toughness as well.
Yeah, they just got an arrogance about them, you know, like, you don't want to be fighting with a dog all day. We've made our dogs biddable. We've made them classy. You know, they're running sideways. They got distance. They got footwork. You know, they got everything. They look $1 million. But some of them dogs on a hot day, on a big mob of sheep, can they move sheep when it gets tough? I've seen some. No, they can't. You know, they can't. They hold their ground. They're a holding type dog. The dogs, like the Buster dog I had years ago, like, he had some mongrel in, like, he just come forward, and in a trial ring, if you raise your voice at him, he'd just lift his head up and blow his chest out, and he'd just mark. Like, at a forcing gate, going into a forcing yard, he'd come closer to you just to give the fence a bigger gap so he could let one break. and he'd just lift his head up, and he'd just slowly march in until he got that one to break, and he'd let it go about 2 strides, and by the third 3.5 strides, he'd have it by the nose swinging on it. But he'd do that just to piss you off. And I could see when he was going to do it exactly how it was all going to unfold. I could see it happening, but I couldn't do nothing about it until somebody said to me, he said, stop talking to him. He said, whistle him, take the emotion out of it. And I did that, and that dog stopped doing it. It sounds really stupid, but it works.
And do you do that with your other dogs now as well?
Some of them. Keeper and Stuart are pretty placid to get along with. They're pretty easy. You talk to them, but there is a couple that I use whistles more than I talk to. Tony, he's a Capri dog. I got to growl at him a fair bit because he's got a bit in him. but yeah, he's going to make a dog. I think he's going to. Yeah, I think he's going to be what I want him to be. To go ahead, to hopefully breed another litter by him, and get that little bit more toughness, a little bit more sheep shift. So, and the other cross I did a McDougall's Champ cross over music.
Well, you want a bit of dog? There's a bit of dog.
There's a bit of dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. I wasn't quite sure how that was gonna pan out because music's got a bit of calm stuff there, but she's still got a fair bit of grunt. And Champ's just all grunt. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he's got calm.
Well, I don't know. I have to ask Nikki. She'll be able to tell you, but I think she's got him calmed a little bit. But yeah, look, I love the cross. I love it. I got 2 of them here. I haven't worked them since September. I worked them on Sunday for the first time since September, and they both just balanced up and showing me, exactly what you want to see. For dogs that haven't seen sheep for a couple of months, it was really, really rewarding to see it. But my dog's got Champ, but he's also got the off switch. So I'm hoping we can keep both those things. I'm hoping we can keep the calmness as well as the fire. So he looks nice at the moment anyway. So
having sorry, mate.
Everyone else that's got them seems to like them as well. I know Dane's got a little bitch out of that litter, and he's pretty much in love with her from the sounds of it, and Jeff likes the dog he's got. So it's been a pretty good cross.
No, that's good. I hope they all work out. And just on that note, like you've mentioned, like your own dogs and knowing your own dogs, and obviously having that line yourself for a while now, like. At the particular ages that you now expecting to see things, or you want to see things, or say from like when you breed your pup to 2 years old, like what's kind of your process? What do you like to see there?
I don't do a lot with them early, Dan.
This I know.
I probably should do more, but I don't. And mostly time factor, work, life in general. Just I like to show them sheep around that 10 to 12 weeks, just to give them a little play and get them interested. If they're showing me what I want to see, that they've got some stuff that I like, I'll just put them away for a little while. They'll be just hanging around home and either in a pen or on a chain or whatever, and then I just show them sheep whenever I get a chance, until they get to that 6 months. I try to balance them up, get them balanced up, and once I've got them balanced up, well, once again I'll put them away for a little while, as long as they're doing everything right. I used to, which I'm going to try to start doing with these ones that have got a bit in them this year, is at 10 months, I used to start taking them to work, which I stopped doing because I just got busy, and dogs were sort of getting to that 12, 13 months before I really started carting them enough. And I want to get back to taking them at 10 months. I used to take them at 10 months and have them semi-reliable by 12 months, doing little jobs, not major jobs, but being able to do little jobs by themselves, without any dramas. Get sheep out of a holding paddock, put sheep through the yards, put them through the handler, put them in the race. They should be able to do that pretty reliably by 12 months.
Yeah.
If you put the time in that 2 month period, you can get them semi-reliable. But I've sort of been running a few too many, and trying to, because I've bred a few different lines, I've tried to hold on to a few to get a bit of a picture of what they are. You get feedback from people, but everyone's opinion's different. Your opinion of a dog to Laura's opinion of a dog to my opinion of a dog is going to be completely, different in different ways. So, they could be telling you it's a cracking dog and you're taking that on board, thinking it is a cracking dog, but then you might go and see that dog and you think, well, no, he's not a cracking dog. He's handy, but he's not a great dog. He's not at the top end of the level.
Yeah.
So it's good to hang on to. It's good to hang on to a few and grow them out yourself and handle them yourself and break them in yourself. And in saying that, I don't necessarily keep the best pup out of that because I might not get along with that pup. If I don't get along with the pup, I will not keep it because you just end up fighting with it, and they never get to make their full potential, and they usually push your buttons, and that's why you don't like them. And you go home cranky every day. So you might as well move that dog on and keep the second best pup and make a dog out of him. People get funny about you growing your pups up and then selling them, thinking that you pick the eyes out of them, but you don't. You don't pick the eyes out of your pups. You pick the pup that suits your job and your personality to do your job under pressure. Like I've sold many a good pup that's turned out to be a really, really good dog because I couldn't get along with him. Him and I didn't like each other. So there's no point me keeping that dog because he's not going to make his full potential because he doesn't like me to start with. He finds his person, he just explodes. He goes to another level. And I'm very big on people finding their bloodline. Like new people come and say, well, what sort of dog do I need? And I said, well, you just got to go out and buy, different dogs until you find the dog that you get along with and find the bloodline. I bought heaps of dogs over the years. And the funny thing was I always came back to my own dogs. I didn't keep any. That was because I had my bloodline. The ones I was bringing in were different bloodlines, and I didn't like them for one reason or another. Or they didn't like me, or they couldn't handle the pressure of the job. Like our sheep are pretty heavy here. So if they're not tough and they're not strong, these old ewes here just come out and roll them. Yeah. They just don't like. I seen an old ewe like Gunner's fairly strong and he's fairly tough, and I seen an old ewe take him on the other week and come out and try to roll him. How's a dog that's not tough or not strong going to handle that? They're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just going to cower away from it. And that's a ewe doing that, not a wether or a ram. That's a ewe. You don't see merino ewes do that very often.
No, not at all.
So if you could make a list of, 5 things that a dog had to have for you to be the ideal dog, what is that?
Perfect temperament and nature to start with. Got to have a heap of presence. It's got to have come forward. He can't sit back. He's got to come forward and take on that challenge.
Take the weight.
Do it. And do it naturally. Like he's got to want it. He's got to want that challenge. There's no use sitting back there going, oh, what's it going to do? What's it going to do? If it's not happening, make it happen. Come forward and make it happen. Yeah. I'd sooner him come forward and make it happen and it go wrong than him sit back there and wait for an hour. Because he wouldn't last at my place if he did that. Ideal dog, temperament, nature, presence, come forward, sideways footwork like Donald, If you in an ideal dog, if you could put the sideways footwork that Donald's got in a really tough, come forward, big present dog, that would be the perfect dog. But you'll never get it because one outlays the other, as far as I'm concerned. They either have brilliant footwork and cover, or they have brilliant presence and come forward. They don't have both at the same level because they counteract each other. Because the footwork and cover, they've got to hold their distance. They can't they can't come forward and take that challenge on and still run sideways. Not perfectly.
It's very conflicting, right?
It is. It is. It's it's hard to explain, but a dog that's got great cover and footwork working sideways, he will take ground, but he'll only take little bits of ground. Whereas a dog that's coming forward, he'll take a lot of ground. Like he'll want to get in that face. He'll want to create something. But if their first instinct's to go sideways, they usually don't have the come forward in abundance because their first instinct's to go sideways.
Yeah, and even if you train that dog to do that, he'll get picked every time. I find.
Yeah, if that makes sense to you, like
absolutely,
it's hard to explain it. Like, you can't have, as far as I'm concerned, you can't have a dog that has both of them in abundance. They'll lean one way or the other, and it's the same as a yard dog and a paddock dog. I don't believe you have a dog that has the same ability in the paddock that has the same ability in the yard. They'll lean one way or the other. They'll lean. They might be able to work both areas really nicely, but they will lean one way or the other.
Yeah.
They can't be 110% at both.
No, they can't. Like they can be pretty close, but I don't think you can get that perfect all-round dog. They either lean a little bit more to the yard or they lean a little bit more to the paddock. But I don't think you get 110% of both. No.
And then if you probably did have that dog, the thing wouldn't want to work with you. It want to run its own show, anyways.
Yeah, he'd be pushing your buttons, I'd reckon.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So you mentioned there, like you don't do too much with your pups. You like to have them, give them looks. Like you're going to start taking them back to work again. So when you are giving them looks, and obviously I know because I've seen you set up. Like you're just putting them in a square yard, getting them some runny sheep.
Fresh sheep.
Yep.
Fresh sheep. They've got to be asked a question. Don't want trained sheep. I don't want sheep that are being dogged, and sheep have got to be asking the question and the dog's got to be answering the question that's asked. I find that's the best way to see what your pup's made of. And you get to see it early on the good ones. You get to see it really early on the good ones. And it's got to be a square yard, or it's got to be a yard with corners in it. I don't want a round yard. They've got to be able to go into that corner and dig them out of the corner. I'm pretty lucky with our sheep because they are pretty tough, so they're pretty heavy. So I can get away with dogs that are a bit freer moving. Like, probably couldn't get away with it if I was working flighty sheep or light sheep. You'd end up into the fence too much. But because our sheep are pretty heavy, you can sort of get away with it. But it also tells you really early whether that dog's got the strength that he needs. Pretty much from the first time you put him on sheep, you can tell whether he's going to have the power to move those sheep, because they'll just come out and roll them. If they don't think they're strong enough, they'll just roll them. And if I've got question marks or I've had a few people come over with question marks on their dogs, and I just run the weathers in. Just run the old weathers in, and we'll put them in there. And if the dog hasn't got it, within 30 seconds, those weathers are rolling. They just pick them. I don't know how they pick them, but they just pick them. And I mean, they'll just come out of the mob. It's really weird to watch, Dan. Like I've watched dogs go around the sheep. People bring dogs and watch them go around the sheep, and you don't think the dog's weak. Like he looks like he's a nice dog, and then bang, they're just rolling. And,
Wow.
and some of them take the hit and move on, and then others resent the hit, and they're the ones that don't make it, the ones that resent it. The one that got up and kept going and finished the job, he'll make a dog. He might not be as powerful as you want him or as strong as you want him, but he'll still make a dog. And there's a lot of people out there that want different, levels of dogs. Like there's a lot of farmers out there that they don't want a dog that you and I want. They just want a dog that'll get around their sheep and put sheep in the yard and do it as easy as possible,
Yeah.
They don't want a dog that can do what we're asking dogs to do, because we're trialing and going the old question of work dogs and trial dogs, and I've had people ring up and ask if they're trial dogs, and I know I don't want a trial dog. I said, mate, they trial, but they're not trial dogs. I said they trial very good too, but I said they're not trial dogs. They're work dogs, mate. Like a work dog's a trial dog.
Yep.
Like these dogs deal with 15,000, 20,000 sheep a year, every year. If they can do that job day in, day out, and still go and compete at the highest level of trialing, that's what a trial dog is. He's just a really, really good work dog.
Why do you think that stigma's there around those trial dogs as such, though?
Well, I don't know. I think they see the creepy crawly, the dogs I call wait a while dogs, the dogs that get out there and lay down and don't actually complete anything. And if you wait long enough, they might shift something. I think they see those dogs and they associate those dogs as trial dogs, whereas they're just a poor example of a work dog, in my vote. But, and look, there's people out there that probably need those types of dogs too, but they definitely wouldn't suit me at all. But I don't know where it really, how it actually sticks, but there's people out there that are dead set that they don't want a trial dog. Don't want a trial dog.
If you could have any dog back, who would it be?
If I could have any dog back, well, there's a couple. I'd like me Buster dog back, old Max. I'd like Davey back as a 15-month-old. And Spider and Skipper. If I had them back at 15 months, all of them at 15 months at the same time, I'd be a pretty happy person going to work.
Why those dogs?
Oh, mate, they were the real deal. Like they could do the job. They could do the job, but then they could go out and compete at the weekend, and so easily compete at the weekend. Like Davey, no one liked Davey. He wasn't the superstar. He didn't have the footwork he's just consistent. He just got around and done his job and consistent. And that's how he won the Australian. It was the consistency. He consistently put 3 runs together over the 3 days, and that's how he won it. Well, we did get a leader in the last run. We did get a leader, and he knew we had the leader, and he made advantage of it. So, But he was a very consistent dog. I never ever kept a record of what we won. He run second to Bill Luff more times than he run anywhere else. I keep saying to Bill, when are you going to retire so I can win some? But he's still going.
You just got the psych on you, mate.
Oh, he has, mate. Like, I don't know. He could friggin' trial a fox terrier. He's unbelievable. Like, you think you've got him. You think you got him, and he just comes out and goes round you again. Like, down there at Henty, I don't know how many times Davey runs second or third to Bill Luff. He's just... And I'm still running second and third to Bill Luff. Like,
at least you're honest.
If it's not Bill Luff, it's Dean Incher. So,
But when how long ago did you start trialing?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this, and I tried to think earlier, but I don't know. Probably 17, 18 years ago, I suppose. I'm just not sure. It'd be about that. 17 years ago, I reckon.
What made you get into it?
Oh, it just looked too much fun not to be doing it. Like, you just had to be out there. And the first few times, I think I won I think my first trial might have been Gundagai, and I won the encourage there. And Bill give the prize to my brother. I think I won the encourage at Gundagai was my first trial. Many years ago, and I've still got the collar actually that I won. But yeah, I just watched it and just thought, like this looks like a good thing to do, and it shows your dog off. It shows how you handle your dog and how you read stock, and it was just a good fun sport. And that was a really good group of blokes around when I started, and I guess that sort of made it a little better too. Like it was very welcoming, and they just wanted to help you. So it was. I guess that's how I got involved in it. And then once I had a run, that was it. Once I had a run, yeah, it's just get more dogs.
You mentioned Billy. Oops, you mentioned Billy there a few times, mate. Did you have any mentors when you first got into it?
Yeah, Larry Wallace was probably the most influential. Billy was there too. I used to pick their brains, and Larry used to. We become very good friends, and he used to stay at home when the trials were back this way. He'd come up, and when I was at Yass, and he'd stay there, and we'd solve all the problems in the dog world overnight, and then we'd go trolling the next day. And I was going pretty good, but I just couldn't get that, that 4 or 5 points I needed to get into the finals. And I got Larry to, sit back and watch what I was doing and point out or throw rocks at me, whatever he wanted to do when I walked out of the ring, to understand where I was losing those 4 or 5 points, sort of like we did at Gundagai, Dan.
Yep.
Where we sat down and just watched runs and pointed out, what was going to go wrong by leaving the sheep where they left them and stuff like that. And it was just little things like that if you're prepared to listen to them blokes and take it on board and go home and try to put it into practice, and some of the things you might not be able to get right, but you might be able to go about it a different way to get it. And if you're prepared to sit back and take notice, and sometimes you got to swallow your pride to do it, because sometimes you don't agree with what they're telling you. But if you want to get really good at it and be at the top, you got to listen to them blokes, because they know they know how to put sheep around a course. It's not rocket science when you actually sit down and really think about it. It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple, and you just need a bit of luck as well. So,
off the back of that, and obviously you've been judging for a long time as well. What advice would you give to some people, say they're now that are stuck 4 or 5 points off finals consistently? What advice would you give those people?
the people that are not quite getting there,
Yeah,
yeah,
because you'd see a lot of it, right? Now that you do a lot of judging.
Yeah, you'll see when you're judging, you usually got sort of 3 groups of dogs. You got the dogs that are knocking on the door. They're there, they're going to be in the finals. And then you got the dogs that are just not quite there, and it could be just handler error. That's why they're not there. And then you probably got the next tier of dogs down, which either a young dog's coming up or dogs that just don't have the ability. I see a lot of people. I don't want to offend anyone by just saying this, but I see a lot of people start out with the wrong type of dogs. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The dogs they start out with aren't good enough to start with, and if they had a better dog to start with, a dog with a bit more ability, they would actually enjoy their trial and probably double as much as what they do now, because they'd actually be going up the list instead of plateauing. There's so many people out there that are just starting out with the wrong dogs. I think they've either got too much dog in them and they can't handle them, or they don't have enough ability to actually do the job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one thing I could say to people starting out is just go out and buy the best bred pup you can buy. There's so many different situations. There's people that work with stock. There's people that don't work with stock. There's people that, work in the city and want a trial. So they've got to find the right dog to suit those things that they do in life. Like you wouldn't want, if you lived in Sydney and you were just training and trialing on the weekend, you wouldn't want a dog like Tony, because he'd drive you mad. But a dog like Keeper, he'd actually fit into that. Even though he's a really good dog, he'd actually fit into that lifestyle because he's calm. He could handle being in the city, and he'd handle the training and go on trialing. He doesn't blow up. But a dog that blows up, you wouldn't want him in the city, because you'd be fighting with him all the time when you put him on sheep. You'd just be a bundle of nerves, and he'd just drive you mad.
So when you say maybe throw this around a different way, instead of those people going and getting a pup, what do you think of them going and getting that older dog?
Yeah, go and buy. Don't be frightened to buy yourself an open dog. Don't be frightened to buy yourself if a half decent open dog comes on the market, don't be frightened to buy him, because you'll actually learn more in the open ring, and it's easier to trial in the open ring than it is to trial in the novice ring, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I reckon it's easier to win an open than what it is to. Well, put it this way: if Dean Incher wasn't around, it'd be easier to win an open than what it is to win a novice. So, it's if an open dog came around and you've got some ability yourself and you can read your stock, like that's what I did. I bought an open dog, and he taught me more than any dog ever did. And he was a terrible dog. He was a dog called Bart. I bought him off Larry, and like he wasn't he was sort of, I don't know, he's probably fifth or sixth rung of the type of dogs, like the top dogs. He was fairly well down the list, but that dog actually taught me more about trialing than anyone could, because he was just a dog that knew where to be and got there and done the job for you. And like, I was working one day and Larry was judging me, and I was that nervous because Larry was judging me, and I think I didn't have him very long, and I was using the wrong commands. I think I was sending him to the right when I should have been sending him to the left, and the dog was doing the right thing. He was going the right way, but I was using the wrong commands. And Larry said to me after the trial, he said, "What were you doing out there? You were sending him to the left and he was going to the right." Like the dog put the sheep through the force, but I didn't help him. There was no help from me. I was wanting him to come one way and he was going the other.
You mentioned winning an Australian there with Davey before. Have you got some memorable moments that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, mate, the day Joe went out before me in the final 10, and I don't know, it was just a really weird day. I never thought, I was in the top 10. That was my achievement. I was in the top 10. Davey got me to the top 10. We were happy. Joe, I thought, would win it because he's been so good at that level. I followed Joe out, and as I was walking on the course, they give Joe's score out, and it wasn't very good. It was a lower score than what I was expecting. And then I started to calculate where I was and where Joe was. And there's one thing about Davey is if you go out and put a 90 on the board, he's going to come out, and if everything's level and you get the right pen of sheep, he's going to come out and put another 88 or a 92 on the board. Like, he was very consistent. So I wasn't worried about not being able to score the 60 plus points that I needed. Well, I think I only needed 50 actually, but Davey hadn't scored below 67 at that trial over the 2 days. And I think 70 was the top score overall, and that's what I got in the final, I think, from memory. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he scored 70 in the final run. But when I took my spot in the ring to cast him, it was just like, this is mine to lose, like, never ever had the feeling in a trial ring before, and probably never have it again. But that day, before I cast that dog, it was like, this is mine to lose. And when I cast him and he picked him up, I had a leader, and that old dog, he knew it, and he just every force, he just went straight at that sheep, and it just led him straight around the course. They had trouble putting them on the truck, getting them off the truck. That sheep went straight into the truck or into the trailer. He hit the back corner and he spun around and he come back halfway down. He was about the mudguard, and all the other sheep went in, and he was behind. He had 2 sheep facing the other way, and he was facing the gate, and he was about the mudguard, and that old dog just went straight at him, and he just let him straight off the truck. They just single fired straight off the truck. It was unbelievable. And then we had a little bit of trouble getting him in the draft. We got him in the draft, and the same thing. I sent him to the front, and that sheep was behind one other. And when I sent the old dog back, he just went straight at that sheep, and he just let him straight out of the draft. Like, I never seen any leaders. Like, I didn't watch all the trial, but there's 100 or something dogs there. But I watched a fair bit of it, and I didn't see a leader all weekend, but we had one in the top 10. And I think at the end of the day, he was probably the difference. The old dog knew he had it and he took advantage of it. It's all right saying you had a leader, but you still got to take advantage of it and be able to put him around the course. So, yeah, it was a pretty good thrill, actually.
Anyone that wanted to get into trialing, what advice would you give them, mate?
What advice? Go and watch a few and talk to some of the experienced trialers and try to pick their brains, just on little things. Maybe spend a day with, try to become friends with some of them or one of them or whatever, and try to get come out for a day and maybe work a few dogs or, just have a muck around, see where they're at. And there's people out there willing to help people improve. Like, it was like me pointing out those things that Gundagai for you. Like, pointing those things out makes you a better trialer. Not that I need to make you a better trialer, but it makes you a better trialer. And by you being a better trialer, it makes me have to be a better trialer because I want to beat you.
Yeah.
If I don't help you get better, you don't put pressure on me to get better.
Absolutely.
So you got to help the people coming up. And like I said, if they're willing to take it on the chin and listen, there's plenty of people out there that'll help them become better. But most people let their pride get in the way and they decide to do it their own way. And they're thereabouts, but they're not there.
Actually, remember that Gundagai we were talking about, getting that lead and like flicking back and coming back around? You know what a young dog did to me the other day? He backed them into the force. He didn't have. He goes, "Don't call me around. I'll just back him straight into force." It worked for him. I was just like, "That's not what we do, buddy." But anyways, I've been working on that, like, to create different flows. And that's actually, that, to be honest, that's I thought the advice you would give, which is kind of different. I thought the advice you would give would be more around creating flows. In different parts of the trial. Because
that first pickup where you leave your sheep, it's crucial. Like,
absolutely,
if you're going to go and open that gate, where you leave those sheep, it's crucial because, like I pointed out to you, if you left them where I left them with Keeper in the final, that dog doesn't have to work to put him in the yard because he's got very little ground to cover. So if he's standing in the right spot, he should be able to roll them sheep into that yard. But if you leave him over in the middle of the ring like a lot of people were doing, he's got half the ring on either side to cover. And he's still got to be able to get in there and lift them off the spot he stopped them on, So when he goes in to lift them, 90% of the time, them sheep are going to roll back down the ring if he doesn't cover. If he doesn't come back and work off balance, you got no hope of covering them. It's really crucial where you leave your sheep and how you pick your sheep back up again, I reckon.
Absolutely.
A lot of trials are won and lost in those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, having a small team of like yourself, like you and someone else working stock, and obviously there's so much need for stock people. What advice would you give to someone looking to pursue a career in the livestock industry? Someone fall through the roof?
I got a shed full of sheep. They just took fright or something.
They've been quiet all night.
Yeah, no, they have been. I don't know what just happened. What was the question again, Des?
What advice would you give to someone that wanted to become a stock person?
Oh, just if they want to do it, just follow their instincts, follow their dream to do it. Like, the hardest part, the stock industry is probably hard for people because there's so many other industries that pay more money, and the stock industry or the farming industry doesn't pay junior people enough to get junior people into the industry, I believe. You know, they can go to the mines and earn $100,000 compared to working on the land and earn $50,000. You know, like sitting in air conditioning to work in stock, which one are you going to take? $100,000 or $50,000? You know,
You've got to really love it for the 50,000.
Well, you do, Laura. It's got to be something that you long for, that you want, or you desire. It's honestly, I think it's a stockman's it's a dying art. There's not enough stock people coming into the industry. Like, I don't believe there's enough young stock people coming into the industry. You only got to look at you've only got to look at yard trialing. How many good young stockmen have we got? Like in a trial, there's not very many. You know, we got shearers that trial, but they're not working stock as such. They're in the shearing trade. How many people have we got that are actually working stock day to day and coming into our trial area? You know, like there's not a lot of them. And if there was good stock people out there, young people, they'd want to be in that trial area. You know, they'd want to be in that arena, trialing their dogs and showing their dogs off and showing their skills off. I just don't see the young people coming into the industry because of the way the industry's set up.
Yep. I know what you're saying. Like,
compared to other industries, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's a tough one. Like you can work for some really good people, and you can work for some, complete wankers, basically.
But that's in any job too, though, isn't it?
It is in any job, Laura. But like in these jobs, sometimes when they've got you working on a property, they think they own you, basically. So like you might only be making $50,000, but you could be working 60, 70 hour week for that. And that's where it's wrong.
Yeah.
That's the part that's wrong.
Yeah.
If they want them to work that 60, 70 hour week, pay them for every hour they work. Don't not pay them. They have a time in lieu system. Well, time in lieu, wow. Time in lieu works for the owners or the company, never works for the person that wants the time off when they want the time off because, we're too busy. And we're always too busy. That's why we've got time in lieu, you know.
Yeah.
I think the industry needs a bit of an overhaul, to be honest. I don't know how they make it attractive for young people to come into it. I don't believe I could be wrong, but I don't believe there's a heap of young people coming into the industry.
I can't, with some of the points you've made, mate, I can't disagree.
I agree with you completely. So,
like, I look at the mines and, like I tried to get a job in the mines 20 odd years ago, and all I had to do was work 3 nights and I was going to make $100,000. 3 nights, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. I had the rest of the week do whatever I wanted, and I was going to make $100,000. How do you compete with that?
You just can't.
With any industry, how do you compete with that? 3 nights for $100,000 for 12 months. Crazy.
It is.
Crazy. Like I could have went and worked somewhere else for 5 other days or 4 other days, you know. But yeah, I wasn't lucky enough to get it.
Then the tax man would find you anyway for the other job.
Oh, he would. He would. He'd take the second job off you anyway.
Correct. 100%. 100%.
It's like overtime, mate. Overtime should be tax free.
Don't disagree.
It's crazy. Like the more you work, the more they take. It's crazy.
Mate, is there anyone you'd like to see us sit down and have a yarn with?
Oh, mate, I don't know. I don't actually know. I haven't followed it greatly, so I don't know who you've actually had on and who you haven't had on. So,
Save it for later.
That's all right.
I'll get back to you on that, Dan.
That's cool.
I'm not sure at the minute. Has Dean been on?
No.
No, he hasn't, mate. Maybe you can
have to get in his ear for us.
He'd be, or Jeff McDougall.
Yeah, I had a chat to Jeff.
You've had a chat to Jeff?
We have.
Yeah. I reckon Dean would be an interesting conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah,
there you go, mate.
I'll throw Dean under the bus.
Perfect.
Jeff, I've got a mission for you, mate. Chip away at him. Mate, thank you very much for catching up with us tonight. Like, people that haven't realised, he's actually in his shearing shed because it's the only place he had good service. So he's been spending a bit of time away from his family tonight. So we really appreciate that, mate.
I'm in the shearing shed because it's got better internet than my house.
One last question though, and seeing as it's the last one for the year, I'm going to change it up for the first time ever.
I don't know about this. Yeah.
If you could sit down and have a dinner with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh.
I heard this one the other day and I thought, that could be really cool.
Anyone in the world, alive or dead?
Don't say ray gun, please.
Oh dear, who would I pick?
Sorry, I really caught you off guard.
You did, Laura. I would probably say my brother Brian or my dad. They both passed away. That's who I'd say.
That's a nice answer.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you very much for jumping on tonight. We really appreciate it.
No worries at all, bud. No worries at all.
And to everyone listening, we hope you have a great Christmas and a fantastic New Year. This is our last episode for the year.
Thank you for all the support.
Thank you for the support from everyone as well. I'm constantly getting people like contacting us during the week saying, "Have you spoken to this person? Have you spoken to this person?" Even some of the people that we spoke to and have declined gracefully, like even still giving us the time to have a yarn with as well. Like, that's been really cool as well. Already set for our first one back next year. That's in middle of January.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're looking forward to that.
I can't remember the date off the top of my head.
But
hope too much going on at the moment.
Hope everyone has a great festive season. Be safe. If you're driving, be careful. If you've had too much to drink, put your keys away.
And there's 127 episodes to replay if you want to.
Yeah, there you go. Christmas, 127 episodes to listen to catch up. And please remember, we learn every day, and the day we stop learning from everyone will be a sad day for everyone.